Hello everyone, my name is Mariah Staten, and this is Culture and Perception and How Worldview Shapes Understanding. For this assignment, I chose the article Eating Christmas in the Kalahari by Richard Burche Lee. I chose this article because it demonstrates how worldview shapes perception and how easily culture misunderstandings can occur when we interpret another culture through our own expectations. In this article, Lee was an anthropologist conducting research among the Kung people in the Kalahari. As Christmas approached, he purchased a large ox to be slaughtered and shared with the community. From his perspective, this was a generous gift and expected the community to appreciate it. Instead, community members repeatedly criticized the ox, saying it was too thin, too old, or might not provide enough meat. Lee became confused and frustrated because he believed that he had chosen what he had chosen to be a valuable animal. Eventually, he learned that the criticism reflected a cultural practice of downplaying a person's success or generosity. The purpose was to discourage arrogance and reinforce humility and equality within the group. This example clearly shows how worldview affects cultural meaning. Lee interpreted the criticism through his own expectations. He assumed that giving a valuable gift should result in visible appreciation and praise. However, within the worldview of Kung community, the criticism served as a deeper social purpose. This demonstrates that communication is not only about the words people use, but also about the cultural values and shared expectations behind those words. One ethnocentric bias I identified was Lee's assumption that the community should respond to his gift according to his own standards of gratitude. Ethnocentrism occurs when people use their own culture as the standard for judging another. Even though Lee was an anthropologist with experience studying the community, his own worldview still shaped his emotional reaction. This shows that good intentions alone do not prevent cultural misunderstanding. This article also challenges the idea that one culture's values are automatically normal or best. In many American settings, openly thanking someone for an expensive gift is considered polite. However, the Kung practice described by Lee served a meaningful purpose by discouraging excessive pride and reinforcing equality. A behavior that appeared rude from Lee's perspective had a positive function within the community. A norm from our own culture that connects to this idea is the importance of family cookouts and large gatherings within the African American community. Food often represents love, hospitality, and belonging. Family members may prepare large amounts of food, encourage people to get second plates, and send relative homes with leftovers. People may also joke, interrupt each other, or tease relatives. Within the family, these behaviors are considered closeness and comfort. However, from an outsider, a culture that values quieter conversations or more personal space might view the same gathering as chaotic, pushy, or argumentative. This connects to Lee's experience because the meaning of behavior depends heavily on the cultural lens through which it is interpreted. A best practice I would recommend for cross-cultural communication is combining cultural humility with perception checking. Our cultural humility means recognizing that we do not know everything about another person's culture, experiences, and remaining willing to learn. Perception checking means verifying our interpretation instead of immediately assuming it's correct. For example, rather than assuming someone is being rude, we might say, "I want to make sure I understood what you meant. Could you explain that a little more?" Lee's experience shows why it's important. His first interpretation of criticism was incomplete because he did not yet understand the cultural meaning behind it. I could personally connect with this article with my work in an elementary school, where I interact with children and families from different backgrounds. Sometimes a parent's direct tone or strong expression of concern can initially be perceived as confrontational. A parent may ask repeated questions or express frustration because they are strongly advocating for their child. If I focus only on the parent's tone, I could misinterpret their intentions. Instead, I have to learn to listen carefully, ask questions, and focus on the concern behind the communication. This compares directly with Lee's experience. He initially focused on the surface level behavior, which was criticism of the ox, and interpreted as ingratitude. In a school setting, someone might focus only on a parent's tone and interpret it as disrespect. In both cases, the first interpretation may miss the deeper meaning behind the behavior. The most significant lesson I gained from this article is that our first interpretation is not always the most accurate one. Worldview influences what we expect and how we assign meaning to other people's behaviors. Effective intercultural communication requires more than good intention. It requires self-awareness, curiosity, and a willingness to question our assumptions. In conclusion, Eating Christmas in Kalahari demonstrates the strong relationship between worldview, perception, and intercultural communication. Lee misunderstanding shows how ethnocentric assumptions can affect even well-intentioned interactions. My biggest takeaway is that cultural differences should not automatically be viewed as communication problems. Sometimes the real issue is assuming our own interpretation is the only reasonable one. By practicing cultural humility, checking our perceptions, and asking respectful questions, we can communicate more effectively across cultural differences and build stronger relationships. Thank you.